Now, so welcome to this session. If you remember yesterday, we went through the research process in a nutshell, and we're able to see through what really constitutes chapter 1, selection of the topic, the problem statement, a background of the study, how to develop research objectives that are smart and measurable, and the whole idea of writing a background statement that motivates. Remember me mentioning that perhaps you may.
What's happening?
I think Senior doesn't know he's muted. Maybe someone could inform him.
Sorry, can you hear me still? I seem to be having, I think our school, we have a lot of people. There's a conference, but if it persists, I will have to perhaps just use my mobile phone. But for now, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, now we can hear.
I'm sorry, I don't know why. I don't know that because we have two conferences here. Maybe there are very many people, but if it persists, perhaps I will use my mobile phone. Let's see for now how it works. So we were saying we will need to do literature review, and the purpose why we do literature review, we are able to show. Okay, you may kindly mute. We're able to show previous studies that have been done on this area, the issues they came up with, the theories in terms of what really grounds and what are the fundamental variables that have been analyzed. And so we have theoretical literature and empirical literature, and it's good to differentiate between these two. When we say theoretical literature, then we are referring to theories that really underpin your study. Let's say you're doing a study on healthcare access, the one that we gave example yesterday. We may have to use theories like, for example,
we can't hear you. I don't know whether I'm the only one that can't hear you.
You too can't hear him.
Just bear with me 1 minute. And Lord, sorry for what is happening. Let me just buy bundles myself because we'll keep on back and forth.
That's okay. Please do so because we had scheduled for 1 hour because after 3, some of us are going to another function.
I agree, and it is not fair actually to go. So I agree. Your study, what theories really underpin your study, and we are able to get the theories based on our research topic. If you are writing on performance, we will look for theories that explains performance, and we maybe look at the broad performance in general. Then we may narrow into performance in the public service. If you're writing on remote working, depending on what you are working on, the theories will be based on the research topic. We will go into our specifics how we do theoretical literature review, but I just wanted us to separate, or rather be able to differentiate between empirical and theoretical literature. Then we come to empirical literature. Now, empirical literature is largely quantitative, let's say quantitative, and sometimes qualitative work that have been done on this area. And so, since it's quantitative, you'll be able to see what were the conclusions, what was the study objective, did they collect primary data or they had secondary data, what kind of analysis did they perform, what are the relationship between variables, and were there variables that were statistically significant if they went ahead to use some bit of regression, if they were descriptives, did they do some bit of cross tabulation so that we can easily see some bivariate analysis. And so empirical literature details quantitative largely work that has been done on this area, and be able to establish interrelationship between variables. And in our study, we can be able to know whether they are variables that we need to include in our model or not. There are people who sometimes confuse between empirical and theoretical. So we need not to confuse the two. Theoretical literature, just theories that underpin your study. It may not even go beyond so much, but for empirical literature, those are quantitative studies already done in this area. And there must be some bit of relationship between variables and how they rate whether they're significant or not. Now, largely, where do we get literature now? In the years we are in, we can talk about journals. And I need to be specific, especially for empirical literature, at least 7 years from now. Even if there are sometimes some classical ones, but we will urge you that restrict yourself to 7 years from now. For theories, I agree, there could be some changes, but there are some theories you may go beyond because they are what we call classical theories. They never change. A theory like, for example, the one explaining economic growth, they never change. People like Todaran, what they wrote on poverty. People like Amata Sin explaining food security, availability, accessibility. You see, in such case, so there are some theories that are classical, we never change them. Or a theory like Bongart's explaining fertility and how number of children are determined in a household. And so the theories I will agree they're classical, they remain so, but you really try to encourage that you use theories that are a bit modern. And even if they're classical theories, there could be some modern reframing and analysis that have now coming so that at least you can use such to farm it, but you can begin from the author as you come to the modern ones. We'll still go through a proper literature review, so you need not to worry. So in terms of sources, sometimes you can use the book, yes, but largely you'll find in scholarly journal articles. We may need some government documents. In the medical world, we talk about gray literature. Those in the medical world can understand. That means just documents that are there with government are very robust in terms of informing policy, but they are not published, or they have not gone through the robust process of peer reviewing, but they are key documents that you can easily bring on board. Then, because we have sometimes published papers like discussion papers, working paper series, and so on and so forth. But largely journal articles be able to give us literature. Now, as you organize or as you look for literature, there is a way we need to go through. If it is theoretical literature, there are key things that we need to look at. For example, if I come to my table here, I hope you can see the table, everyone, kindly. We can see my screen and the table. Okay, so I can proceed. Anyone who will respond?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Now, for theoretical literature, it may not be this manner, but there are things we need to have for theoretical literature. Number one, who is the author or authors for the theory? When was the theory published? What is the key tenet in this theory? In a nutshell, what does it say? For example, if you pick Maslow hierarchy of needs, and you can see the key tenet is that human needs are ranked, or people tend to rank their needs, so that when they reach what they conceive to be the highest, people tend now to believe they have reached some level of achievement. And so that's the key tenet. So the author, or authors, the year of publication, what is the key tenet of this theory? What does it say in a nutshell? For what contribution is this theory making, or what contribution has it made? Has it, for example, explained a phenomenon in terms of people now making sense of what is happening? So what contribution has it made? 5, Are there strengths and weaknesses? Let me join those two. Are there strengths and weaknesses of this theory? What really does it bring to the fore that we can say this is the strength of this theory? And the weakness also is good to show the weakness. And of course, lastly and very important, how does the theory relate to your study? Because the one thing to do literature review and bring the issues, but also one thing to also show us exactly how does this relate with your study. This should be like the last paragraph. You can do literature review as it is. Look at the theory, the strengths, the weaknesses, the contribution, the key net, but just stop there. So we don't know whether this theory, how is it connected to your study? So there should be a paragraph illustrating how this theory also connects to your study, whether in terms of the variable of analysis or conceptualization of the variable themselves, how the variables are measured. So you can easily see, oh, there's a direct link between this study and the theory. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're able to really do a synthesis of a theory like that, we will be able to say this is a literature review. Many of us have done just look at a theory, highlight, copy, paste, put there. There's no coherence, and you can easily see. So this is not a proper literature review. It is good that we do a proper literature review. So we need to have those sections. Of course, we write in prose. I'm not saying you have sections called contribution or strengths or weaknesses. No, but those are key areas that really guides our review. So that as we write, so what is the key net, the contribution in paragraph form, we are able to bring the issues. Then, of course, we have empirical literature. Before I look at this table, let's look at empirical literature in a more detailed way. Suppose the members that I have here, let me have the names. So, for example, I have Baraza Isaac. I have Emily Takwale. Sorry if I may not pronounce your name so well, just bear with me. Emily Takwale or Takwale. Yes, there's no projection, just pay attention. Actually, you may listen to me more than the projection. And so there are two ways to do literature review for empirical, there are two ways to do empirical literature review. So we have the silo, then of course we have the synthesis approach. And I want just to illustrate so that we pay attention. So suppose Baraza Isaac did a study on employee productivity in the public service in Kenya in 2022. And Baraza collected data from the public service, did analysis, and therefore concluded that remuneration policy, for example, is statistically significant in explaining employee productivity, at the same time positively correlates with employee productivity. So in a nutshell, remuneration policy or structure motivates and therefore influences positively employee productivity. That is Baraza and his conclusion. Emily Takwale or Emily Takwale did the same study in a different year and concluded the same. So Emily and Isaac Baraza agree, they collaborate, the studies collaborate, if you may use that word. At the same time, Salome Nguka also did a study on the same area, still in the same area, and found out that remuneration policy is not even statistically significant in explaining employee productivity, and therefore not important. And so let's use those three. If I'm using the silo mode of doing empirical literature review, then I will pick Baraza and say Baraza in 2022 did a study in Kenya's public service using primary data collected from a number of employees, analysis used descriptive and all that, and regression analysis. And the study concludes that remuneration policy is statistically significant in explaining employee productivity. I stop there. I again pick Nguka because we use the surname, we are using APA. Oh, did we say that yesterday? So referencing is APA kindly, and you may look at the 7th edition now. APA reference style font is 12, spacing 1.5 throughout, and the Word document should be justify. Remember, in the word up there, justify. Heading 1 should be centered. The rest of the Word document should just be justified. So if you are referencing using APA, then I will say Nguka. Again, Nguka did the same, did a different study but concluded the same. I again use her case in a paragraph and stop there. At the same time, we said, was it Emily was different or Emily was the same? Let's say Salome Nguka is the same. Font is 12. Grace Kibe font is 12, spacing 1.5, APA reference style, APA racing style throughout. And of course, New Times Roman. Or is it Times New Roman? Either. And Emily differed, but so I also go to Emily, and again, there's a paragraph. So those are 3 paragraphs. That is what we call, ladies and gentlemen, the synthesis approach. The silo approach. But if I was doing the synthesis approach, I will just have 1 paragraph and say, studies done in Kenya have established that remuneration policy and structure is statistically significant in explaining employee productivity. Employee productivity correlates positively, I'm now moving on, correlates positively with employee productivity. And I will cite Baraza 2022, Nguka 2023, for example. In that paragraph, I've combined both other studies. I've combined these 2 studies. I will share the screen. Please listen a bit. Dear members of the class, I will share the screen. Let's talk a bit. So, in that case, I'm talking about the synthesis approach. Those 2 studies, I've combined them in 1 paragraph. And moving forward, I will again put a comma. And remember, we had said Emily Turkale found differently. I will move again with the same paragraph and say, however, a study done by Turkale in 2020 did not corroborate with the findings, as the study found employee productivity not to be influenced by not to be influenced by the remuneration structure or remuneration policy. So in that paragraph, I've both brought studies that corroborate, that goes together, and studies that disagree. So that is what we call the synthesis approach. Now, the best way to go about it is to use the synthesis approach. Of course, I know many of us will go for the silo way of doing it, but I've shown you how you come to have the synthesis approach. Now, to just illustrate, let me have an example. So you look at the first example. I'm saying Eta and Kimani 2014 investigated the influence of distance health facilities, blah, 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 and all that. The study concludes that women who are residing 5 kilometers or less from the facility. So that's my conclusion. That is the silo approach, because I'm picking every study and moving on with them each and per paragraph. But if I'm using this approach, so for example, the example I have here is that according to expert reports, reserve schools receive less funding than their provisional experts in provision of services to meet the needs of the students. Then I have the references. So this study was to investigate allocation structure by different school structures. So there's provincial and reserve. And the studies have concluded that reserve schools receive less funding. And then I have different authors. If I was doing silo approach, I was to bring Joint Task Force in 2013, have them as a paragraph, National Panel 2011, have them as a paragraph. Then, of course, Pelitia et al. 2013, again have a paragraph and like that. But you can see the synthesis approach combines them into one. So that's always the best way, because you're able to web a theme between different studies, point out the gaps so easily, and of course, create your story without copy pasting. Most of the time, the silo approach, people will tend to copy, because you go to the abstract, for example, you find what you feel is important, you copy paste, you go to conclusion like that. And sometimes if the rigorous process is rigorous and we are to perhaps scan the thing that really come and show similarity index, and you may have issues. So the synthesis approach is much, much better as you do literature review for the work that you do. Actually, for what was I saying? For empirical literature, sometimes you can arrange them in this table the way they are. You just put the studies there. Then when you begin writing, now you use your own words because you'll have the author, the title, the year, objectives. You'll have the variables. What variable are they measuring? For example, remember that other one was measuring funds allocation or capitation in our own country, if you may need that. The first one was looking at healthcare access in terms of distance. Then, of course, methodology. How did they collect the data? Are they the same? So then, of course, the results and conclusions. When you arrange the studies that way, you are able to build a clear theme, and you are able to really look at studies that perhaps goes together and those that don't go together. And then you'll be able to have a proper literature review that flows, and of course, that really brings to the fore the literature issues and the gaps that we need to establish. Now, I don't know, before I proceed to other areas, just on what we have mentioned on the silo and the synthesis, and of course, theoretical and empirical literature, anyone who may want to have a question is welcome. Okay, so silence means we are good, we can proceed. Now, last time we looked at some key important aspects also that are not here, and that is the conceptual framework and the research gaps. So I may need to again share my screen here, at least we say a few things. So I brought back the Word document. Now, we had mentioned that for the conceptual framework, we can have it the last thing in chapter 2 or the first thing in chapter 3. Suppose we have it in the last thing in chapter 2. We have the third bit in chapter 2, that is the gaps or overview of literature. To establish gaps, we'll have to look at the theories, for example. Which other things did the theories look at? How robust were the theories developed? And how robust do they measure our own variables? So that if our variable, for example, productivity, in most studies is measured as number of work done, for example. And for example, as we want to measure it in terms of actual targets, for example, met or problem-solving skills, then already that is a gap because they are measuring it differently as we are measuring it differently. And of course, in terms of empirical literature, also the gaps in terms of how robust was the data collection process, how robust was the tool or the tools, used, how robust was the analysis? Did they do some bit of preliminaries in terms of analysis, establishing correlations before moving on to do analyze? So the gaps will be able to establish them when we look at how empirical literature we have reviewed is presented, and of course, how theoretical literature we have reviewed is so presented. So the gaps will come in terms of variables and their measurements, and of course, in terms of methodology. And the gaps can also just arise due to the fact that we are going to do our study in a different area, maybe targeting a different section, maybe targeting women or targeting the youths. That's already a gap because you may find other research done previously or hitherto may have not really considered this segment of the social structure. So that will really bring out the gap or the research gaps. And normally this part is not very long. So please do not be tempted to write so long, very long things on that area. And of course, lastly, on that part is the conceptual framework. We went through this yesterday. We'll have both the dependent variable on the right and of course independent variables on the left. You can arrange them in your manner. This is just an example, but let's have it to show that we have a conceptual framework at least by the end of chapter 2, the last thing in chapter 2 or the first thing in chapter 3. So still, any question or comment again? Okay, we can proceed. And we come to methodology, and we'll just do the 2 chapters, then we'll stop there, with many with the 4 and 5. Like we had mentioned, that methodology will take 2 forms. Research methodology in chapter 3, whether you're using primary data or secondary data. If it's primary data, then of course you will have to discuss the research design. It is descriptive, is it explorative, a very new area? Is it experimental research design? Is it a bit of ethnography? So the research design needs to come out clearly, because you're using primary data and you are going to collect the data. Is it a correlation research and so on, explanatory and so on. And what is the target population? Which population are you targeting? Is there a reason for the target of this population? What is the sample size? And how are you determining the sample size? Remember we said last time, if the study, if you know already the population, in terms of the number, then you can use the main 1967, where N and all that. I believe I shared a word where it is. But if you don't know, then we may first use Cochrane, and normally Cochrane comes around 384 thereabout, regardless of the number. You will agree with me, especially when we are using it, when we're using the 95% confidence interval, you always find it around 384. So once you have the sample size, if it's a bit clustered, how are you going to cluster it? Are you going to calculate in terms of a share? How are you going to collect data? Is it using the PAPI, paper and pencil, or the CAPI, computer assisted? What tools are you using? Are you using survey, or are you also using qualitative tools like KI, FGD, that is key informant interview, KI, and of course FGD, focus group discussion? Are you having such tools? And now we even move forward. And what is the medium? Are you going to develop a Kobo Collect, which is free, a Google form? And I met another group, just SMC, that is here physical. They are finishing, they made a presentation yesterday. I was with them. One among the group even suggested them so that they bought SurveyMonkey. And I will say, perhaps you don't need to buy, you can use the free version. So that we have the Kobo Collect, which is free. You have Google Form, and that Google Form could be a bit limited, but I don't think it's necessary you spend your money on buying online platform to collect data. We have this free versions, which will still serve us. So the methodology of collecting the data, if it is developed in terms of Kobo Collect and all that, was it shared? Later, how do you get the data? So you need to describe all this. That's the primary data. I mean, that's when we're using primary data. And of course, data analysis, the kind of methodology you intend to use in your study. If it is secondary, we may not need to discuss all those that are before. We may not need research design. And if research design goes population, goes sample size, because we don't need the sample size already collected for us. We'll only go straight to the data sources and types, and then of course a data analysis and all that. Now I'm still repeating, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to use primary data, please let's discuss the chapter 3 in detail, having all those sections clearly written, the population, the sample size, and all that. Please not begin quoting Professor Mugenda, like I said yesterday, and saying things that even if she was to come here, she will have disowned you by saying, oh, Professor Mugenda talks about 10%. I don't know, some areas that can not really justify or really stand before a robust research process. So let's begin to develop a methodology, and of course, show how you're going to arrive at your sample size for the chapter 3 is important. And of course, another important section in chapter 3 is if you're going to use online tools, how did you share it, for example, and how will you get data from there? So maybe the data was collected, then later you downloaded it as an Excel. All those needs to come out clearly in our chapter 3. Then of course, I know we have the issue of reliability, and where we use tools like Cronbach and all that. And those are things that some of the things that we may have to just discover on our own. If you have to bring all the tests, reliability and all that, validity, reliability, all that, sometimes we may take a lot of time, but I know there are things that are there, and I believe you are aware that you'll be able to show how reliable is your tool in terms of collecting data, and validity in terms of how the results you are going to have, how valid will they stand out there. And so our chapter 3 will be robust, but depending on the nature of data that we have. Any question? I know I've talked a lot, and it's not fair that I talk so much. Any question or a comment from any of us?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes. So
For
this
some
is
of us, we were not,
Charity. That's you.
we were not able to pick up from yesterday's class. So we are hanging a bit because there were some
Thank
network issues yesterday. So I'm hanging. I'm not yet
Okay.
with
Okay.
you.
So Charity, thank you for your question. Now, yesterday we went through our chapter 1, and the president, did I share the document? I believe I shared, or I didn't. I believe I shared. We are also able to share the template we are using. And some of the things that perhaps maybe by past 2, we are also filling an Excel sheet, which we expect by today. Or I saw some developed a Google form, which is fine, so that we are able to place ourselves into groups. So I don't know if you are in stream A, B, or C. We need to fill in the document, put our details, name, contact, highest education level. Like if you have a master's, please specify master's in communication, master's in finance, master's in engineering, or if you have a bachelor's degree in what? Economics, finance, or even a PhD, please specify in education and all that, because we're able to also distribute people accordingly. Then we'll be able to be in groups and continue working. But there's a recording. By the end of this, I'll be able to ask Ryan and be able to tell us exactly where you can have it when you log in the system. Before I come to you, Joy, let me just know, Charity, as what I've said suffice, so you feel an area I need to perhaps explain?
So I would wish to have the recording so that I can pick up from there, please.
Okay, thank you. I believe it should be in the LMS. I will ask Ryan how we can get. I will post just right away.
Okay.
So
Okay,
Joy, your hand is up. Joy?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So, on the same note about the area of specialization, I know I had asked on the chat and I was answered, but I am not really still clear on it. Because now you see, like an example of myself, my master's is in project management, but my area of specialization and profession rather is in supply chain management. So I don't know exactly whether it should be about the highest level of education or about what I really do on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Joy. Ours is what you really studied. And the reason is, at least when I group people, I may not mix people, like you see, you have done projects. I may not end up finding people who have done projects throughout, and maybe one person who perhaps has done sociology. And agreeing as a group becomes a problem. So ours is the highest level of education in terms of what you study. So like you just say, MSc, project management. That will be fine.
So that means whichever group I land with will be more about project management.
No, Joy. You will have, you will be 10 of you, right? Just a minute. You'll be like 10 of you, people from the diverse backgrounds. At least give it a chance. There's a likelihood that perhaps the topic you are going to agree on, the 10 of you, may not be about project management, right?
Okay.
Yes, at least give it some probability. I know you did some mathematics, that the 10 of you may not think the same, that all of you will end up in project management. If it happens, well and good, but it's not really taken that the 10 of you will think, all of you will just think about project management. I hope I answered you, my sister Joy.
That is clearer now. Thank you.
This is Katumbi Mailu. Your hand was up earlier.
Yes, the same concern as Joy. I don't particularly want to end up.
Although you are breaking a bit, Katumbi.
Sorry, I'm
Katumbi,
saying, yes. Can you hear me now?
but you seem to be very far from, I don't know if that is the mic or the laptop. You seem to be very far a bit.
I'm in a crowded place, so I have to use headphones. So
Okay.
please bear with me. I had the same concern as Joy. I don't particularly want to do a project that's similar to what I did, which is why I've not indicated that. I feel like that is putting people in one box. Yeah, everyone is thinking, is it possible to connect with people from different areas of
Okay.
practice?
Katumbi.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I think there's a lot of noise in the background, but Katumbi, please fill the form as we discussed, kindly. And please, everyone here who may have not filled, please fill the form as we discussed. If you have a master's in any field or a bachelor, please just specify. Now, Katumbi, you're already creating problems that are not there because you will still be within a group and you will discuss and come up with a topic. The notion here is we don't end up having a group where we only have all engineers or all medical people and perhaps maybe someone who also reads some bit of social science, or a group with all masters. Then we may have a group with only bachelors, or a group with all PhDs, and we may. So this just enable us be able to be a unit and of course form a team as we write. So please fill the form as we had asked kindly. Just specify, please. Now somebody is saying they can't hear me. Evelyn. So Katumbi, I hope you got me kindly.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mine is just I need more clarity.
Katumbi,
In
okay,
group
so
B,
Evelyn,
group
I'm
B,
coming.
yeah.
Evelyn,
Do I hold on? Yep.
Yes, a minute. Katumbi, I hope I answered you. Katumbi, are you there? Katumbi Mailu.
Yes. I'm answering.
Okay, please fill the form as we had said. Yes, Evelyn, you can proceed.
Yeah, we were able in group B, we were able to fill the Google forms, and we indicated our highest level, very specific on our specialization areas. Do we have to refill the form again, or some of these things we can just share with our group leaders now to complete?
What do you mean when you say refill?
We fill it again. Do we have to fill it again? Because yesterday we got the Google forms and were able to fill, indicating our highest level of education. But now it's coming up that we need to give our specialization areas. Do we have to refill the form again? I need some clarity there.
Senior managers, you're making this to be very difficult. I even shared in WhatsApp that as you feel, you follow these columns. So when you say areas of specialization, so like you, what did you feel under highest education level, Evelyn?
Yeah, for example, my case, I have masters in governance and leadership, but I did not specify governance and leadership. I just indicated masters. So do I have to refill the form by indicating governance and leadership? I need to be guided there.
Someone is even saying as of yesterday, there was no field to specify. The form didn't have an option to specify. Kidogo, we are still handling, someone was still on the floor. Evelyn, just a minute.
Yeah, he's right, because by the time we were filling the form, it just required the highest level of education, of which it was very clear and straight to the point. But now it's coming up that there's need for specialization, of which a good number of us were not able to fill in by yesterday.
Okay, maybe let's have the benefit of doubt that perhaps when we had the online meeting, maybe some people didn't hear, but I mentioned it clearly when we were having the webinar, and later when in the WhatsApp I also shared. By specifying, is simply, for example, you can say masters, then have a bracket and say education or masters in finance or masters. That's what we call specifying. But for now, I
Sorry,
think
Mr.
let's have us. For now, let's have us. Let's
Mr.
assess
Prayer.
it because kidogo. Because for now, again, if we begin refilling and we wanted the documents at least by today so that we can form groups, we may take much longer. Those who have filled and at least indicated masters on any, fine. Let's leave it at that. But the truth is, we had said yesterday clearly. So let's just say if you have filled and I've not specified, that's fine. I will know that, so this is masters, and I will have the grouping knowing that I'm now dealing with masters or anyone. So I think let's have them as such, and I will request, like we had said, it is by close of today. The presidents, please, the fear is that some people who may stay away like this and not fill, have had such cases, and people come back later when already research has started. They want to be in a group, and the school is very strict. I remember one came here when people were about to do the presentation, and he was denied a chance. He was told, "You people, you come again later and do the research." So let's just take this initiative. But if you feel you wrote masters, is fine. Let's stop at that. I will ask the presidents once at least everyone has filled the forms. I will work on them. But the ideal we were to specify, so it is fine. Let's move. Nicholas' hand was up before Daktari, so I will give Nicholas. Evelyn, so I hope that is fine with you. Nicholas, you can take the floor.
Thank you, Brian. I think what we are discussing here was discussed and it was very clear yesterday. And the challenge we are having is that many people did not manage to join yesterday's class. That's why you find that we have some challenges. But still, you clarified very well that we indicate highest level and specialization. That is, if, for example, my case, it's a BTech in electrical electronics engineering. So that was very clear. But still, the forms are still available for editing. Someone can go, click on the form, and include the information that is missing, and it will be updated automatically.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I was just saying if it's something, okay, I agree with you, but if it's something that perhaps will take us again much longer, for those who have filled, if you did masters or any, it's fine. Let's just leave at that so that we may not slow down the process. I saw Dr. Kimani wanted to say something. Probably he will be telling me the forms are ready and they want to share immediately. Yes, Dr.
Yes, our group has worked. We had that small anomaly of the form had not included the specialization area, but as it is, it was included. So the form is open. Just to answer Evelyn and any other person, the form is open, so you can. It's something that takes you even 2 minutes. You can do it, and by 4:30, I should have cleared. So don't worry. Even if you've done double, I'm able to analyze that data, remove the redundant information. Asante.
Okay, asante sana. But Daktari, what my appeal is, for those who already have filled, even if you wrote masters, please, so that we don't take much time, let's leave it at that. We'll work with it. It may not be the best, but let's work with that. So by the end of today, Daktari, you will share. Probably you may ask in your group, Daktari, who has not filled. Not people who want to edit, but who has not filled completely because you'll be sharing the document. Yes, please.
Unless you want to digest our time.
Yes?
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if there's any other question. Otherwise, team, I really appreciate. We may not want to go further. We had requested for 1 hour and it is now 5 minutes past. I will, if there's no question, we may want to just end there and we call it a day. And then I will form the groups, at least I'll be able to share before. But then Dr. Kimani, did I share the template with the emails? I believe I did, right?
You shared via WhatsApp group, so I believe every person has access. If there is any member of my group who doesn't have, I can reshare. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Daktari, as we end, I'm expecting the sheets with the data so that I begin forming the groups probably in the next 1 hour, please. And Daktari, you represent group B or C?
I am in group B for boy.
Or B for boy. And leader for group B or C, will you also comment to us anything now that time is moving? Yes, Charity group.
Yeah, I was just requesting that the one providing the recording for yesterday, not to forget to share the yesterday's recording.
I will inform us on that. Just a minute. So, anyone on group? Anyone, the leader of group A or C, to just comment how the form is proceeding, or how we are doing with the filling of the form? Group A or C?
Good afternoon, Mwalimu.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, this is Clementine from Group A, and I can see our form. Most of us who have filled have already captured the required details. So I think I can see we have also been requested those who have not filled to fill. So yeah, Group A.
So Wavinya, this is C Wavinya, right?
Yes, yes.
Wavinya, will you just type there, please share that, please, we are sharing the form in 1 hour's time. Anyone who has not filled, to do so in 1 hour's time,
I
will be
can
shared.
see a group member of my from our group is also typing, and they have requested those who have not filled to fill.
Yes, in 1 hour's time. Rosalia, for now, if you are commenting on group C, fine. But if not, let me look for the leader of group C. A leader of group
I'm commenting on group C.
Yes, thank you.
The document was provided yesterday and everybody did the filling. I believe our class rep will share with you in the post of the.
In 1 hour's time, we've agreed in 1 hour's time, because we are many, then I can begin reorganizing. So in 1 hour's time, please, you can also as well type or tell him or her to type that in 1 hour's time, we are sharing the form so that I can begin forming the groups and allocating the supervisors. It's still a tedious process, but in 1 hour's time, that I will really appreciate. So then, thank you, team, and let's meet. Let's continue to share. I'm available all the time. So do we call it a day? We can leave at our own pleasure. Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.